Hey everyone, this is the Fantasy Football Endgame. I'm Pierre and I'm here to give you the top waiver wire pickups heading into week 4 of the fantasy season. Hard to believe that we're already that far into it, but here we go. Now, usually I've been doing a top 10, but you know what? As you go on throughout the season, there's just not as many options. So let's consider this more of a Elite 8 this time around. Now, before I get into my favorite pickups of the week, don't forget to check the description below. Some helpful information and links in there, how you can join us and be a member. A lot that we're trying to offer to those who join us on Patreon. And of course, you can always join our Discord for free at any time. Join the conversation. We're here all week long talking about fantasy football, everything that's relevant, including waiver wire pickups. So let's get into it right now. So the top pickup going into week 4 is going to be a Panthers running back because Christian McCaffrey is hurt. Now, initially, it looked like it was going to be serious, and now we're seeing that it's, well, what they call less than grade 1 strain. So right now, week to week, but it looks very unlikely that he's going to play in week 4. So Chuba Hubbard is the man right now, the guy that was a 4th round draft pick. And you saw that as soon as McCaffrey went out of the game on Thursday night, it was Hubbard who was getting all the work basically until the very end. Royce Freeman kind of snuck in there and took a couple of carries. But it's going to be Hubbard's show, at least for 1 week. Now, don't go crazy and blow all your fab budget on him. You know, if you have a number 1 claim, it's going to be tempting, especially if you are the one who has Christian McCaffrey. Well, you need somebody to replace him. Obviously, Hubbard isn't going to be McCaffrey, but also we don't know what he's going to deliver. He had looked pretty disappointing running the ball up until Thursday night, and he did okay, totaled about 50 yards. But again, that was against Houston on a team that was starting Davis Mills at quarterback. So it's hard to say what he's going to bring to the table. Now, it is a pretty good matchup going against Dallas defense because Dallas doesn't really have much of a defense. But again, I just don't go crazy with expectations. Everyone automatically will assume that Mike Davis from last year is going to be Chuba Hubbard from this year. Maybe even better, right? Because Chuba Hubbard was better in college, et cetera, except for last year. Point is, Hubbard, yes, he's worth picking up, especially if you do have McCaffrey, you want him. But don't spend your entire budget on him. He might only be around for a week or 2. So worth picking up, but like we've learned with Elijah Mitchell last week, sometimes these things don't always look as great the week after. All right, now let's go on to another running back. This guy might actually be worth an ad, even more so than Hubbard. That's Alexander Mattison. So again, if you are the Cook owner, you might have used him as your handcuff, and that was a smart idea because guess what? 3 weeks into the season, Dalvin Cook hurt, did not play, and Mattison took advantage. He didn't do that last year. We saw this happen last year. Everyone went crazy for Mattison, and he delivered a dud in his start with Cook missed in 2020. Well, he didn't do that this time around. 112 rushing yards, 59 receiving, and he was definitely worth starting in all formats. So is he worth picking up? But the same situation here as with Hubbard. Look, we don't know if Cook's going to play next week or not. If he does play, is he going to be limited? It's just hard to say. This is not a serious long-term injury. So again, Mattison absolutely worth pursuing on the waiver wire, but not somebody who's really going to be in your starting lineup long-term unless Cook happens to re-aggravate his injury, something else happens. So yes, go out and grab Mattison if he's available, but I wouldn't spend more than, let's say, 15% of your fab budget on him. All right, now let's get to a wide receiver. And this, I got to give credit to my partner, Chris. Definitely said this feels like an Emmanuel Sanders week, and it was. He scored twice, 94 yards. Look, Buffalo, 2 weeks in a row, just destroyed their opponent. Josh Allen has it going again after kind of a slow week 1. So, yeah, there's a lot of receivers in this offense that are worth having. Cole Beasley actually had more catches than Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders just happened to be the one who found the end zone twice. But I do think Sanders is the number 2 receiver there. Obviously a veteran. He's got that rapport. He has been seeing a steady target share every week so far in Buffalo. And this is a guy that has produced multiple times in the past. So I feel like Sanders is a strong play. And you want to stream him this week if possible because they get Houston. And again, Houston, not even as good as their record shows because their 1 win came against Jacksonville. Still going with the rookie Davis Mills at quarterback. There's going to be a lot of points put on the board by Buffalo. So Sanders is one of those guys you kind of grab and then plug and play in your lineup if you can get him. All right, let's go to another receiver. A guy, I'll admit, I was down on this last week. Didn't foresee the James White injury happening because White, one of the main pass catchers and targets in that New England offense, well, he was hurt early on, and that meant more targets to go around for the receivers. So Jakobi Meyers was already the leading target getter for the Patriots, and then got even more so. So in week 3, went for 9 catches, 94 yards, and 14 targets. That is a lot. One of the leading target getters in the entire league this week. Meyers always gets a lot of targets. What I had said is he just didn't get a lot of yards, right? His yards per reception average was 8.2 heading into this week. Well, it ticked up a little bit, but even so, I mean, barely over 10 yards a catch. That's not super impressive, but when you're getting 9 catches and 14 targets, I mean, that alone makes you fantasy relevant. So he's going to be dependent on that volume, but he's going to get it because really there's not much else. Nelson Aguilar has been a dud so far. We'll see if he picks it up, but that connection with Mac Jones just isn't there. James White, if he's out, that means more love for Jakobi Meyers. Look, even Kendrick Bourne, we saw he all of a sudden emerged this week because of the way things are going offensively. They couldn't get the run game going. That's not going to happen every week for New England. So they're really going to be more a run-first team if they can. But again, you have to like Jakobi Meyers in this matchup in week 4, going against Tampa Bay. And that is exactly the type of kind of pass funnel defense that you see where they will shut down running backs, but they have all sorts of injuries. Their secondary was already a little shaky, but now all sorts of injuries. Jamel Dean went out this week. And so there's going to be probably a lot more passing than Bill Belichick wants on that side, but they're going to have to keep pace with Tom Brady and the Bucs, oddly enough. So I feel like Meyers could have a big week in week 4, guy that you should pick up. Maybe look at Kendrick Bourne, but that would be in even deeper league. So I'd say if Meyers is available, grab him. If you're in a deeper league, a more competitive league, maybe look at Bourne. Now this guy is a wide receiver, running back, hybrid. Call him what you want. It doesn't matter. He actually qualifies for both positions in Yahoo. And I mentioned him last week. That's Cordarrelle Patterson. So I know there's some non-believers out there, but it looks like he is not only the clear RB2 in Atlanta, but pretty close to RB1. It's kind of a 1A, 1B situation. So Mike Davis is the guy who's technically the lead running back there. But look, in week 3, Mike Davis had a total of 16 touches and Patterson had 13. That's pretty close. And Patterson, of course, being a wide receiver by trade, most of his came in the passing game. Well, you know what happened? He actually led the team with 82 receiving yards. That's right. He had more yards in the air than Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, more than twice as much as Kyle Pitts. Any other receiver that you can name, which probably aren't a lot in Atlanta, but, you know, Russell Gage is out. Olamide Zaccheaus, he scored a touchdown, but he's not a major threat. There's just nobody else. So Patterson is kind of their fill-in there for the fact that they just don't have a lot going offensively. The Swiss Army knife of the offense there, Patterson, he's a guy you can plug at either position. Obviously more valuable at running back. If you're in a full PPR league, you want a running back that can catch you 7, 8 passes. Yes, I will take that, okay? He's not going to always score many touchdowns. He did score twice last week, didn't score this week. But you know what? Again, he brings you that floor that we weren't expecting because we thought that Atlanta would actually pass the ball more. They're not. When they are passing, they're still keeping it safe, going to guys like Patterson, going to the running backs. They're just not airing it out like they used to. So Patterson, like it or not, he has value. He's cutting into Mike Davis's value. And he's a guy that, you know what, you don't love starting him, but in a pinch, you can use him. So I'm still going to recommend picking up Patterson as kind of that utility guy that you'll like in bye weeks. Now, let's do a tight end here. Not a lot of tight ends worth talking about on the waiver wire, but one guy that did grab your attention probably was Tyler Conklin. So look, in Minnesota, they were airing it out this week. Of course, the usual suspects, Justin Jefferson back to being what we expected, the alpha dog there in that receiving game. Adam Thielen did his thing. KJ Osborne kind of faded away because Tyler Conklin, the tight end in Minnesota that you never heard of until this year, he suddenly appeared with 7 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Now, you might say, well, that's just one game. It happens, right? Just like Osborne had his time. Now it's Conklin's time. But Conklin's actually a guy who has been getting targeted throughout the season. He just didn't do a whole lot the first 2 weeks yardage-wise, and he hasn't scored yet. He has 18 targets through 3 games. That's 6 per game so far, if you do the math there. So that's pretty good, especially for a tight end. You know, they don't have much else there after Osborne, who is kind of a surprise at wide receiver 3. You know, we found out for a fact that Chris Herndon was just a what the heck kind of a trade, and let's see what happens. And obviously they weren't too impressed because he's not even sniffing the field. So Conklin, somebody who could at least make some noise here. He'll score the occasional touchdown. He'll have decent games like this. No, he's not a breakout candidate. No, he's not this year's Robert Tonyan. I'm not saying any of that. But in a team that now, without Dalvin Cook, might need to pass the ball more, at least temporarily, you got to look at a guy who's getting targeted that heavily. You always chase targets when you're looking at receivers or tight ends, and Conklin's doing that so far. All right, and I'm going to end with a quarterback or two. The last one might surprise you, but let's start with Sam Darnold. Look, so CMC is out. We already know this. I talked about this in the beginning. Sam Darnold is going to have to lead this team, and he's doing it so far, believe it or not. 3-0, but also he looks like a completely different quarterback. 68% completion percentage, a lot higher than it was when he was the Jets. Sorry, Jets fans, I know it hurts, but there's probably a lot of things I've hurt you over the years, so this is just another one. 3 touchdowns in 3 games, well, that's not too impressive, but he also has 3 rushing touchdowns. And if he can keep doing that, then he'll bring you plenty of fantasy value. Only 1 interception. He's not seeing ghosts, not turning the ball over. Sam Darnold looks like the real deal so far and might need to do even more with his arm and legs for the next week or two without CMC there. And oh, by the way, gets Dallas this coming week. He'll have plenty of opportunity to throw deep. Hey, maybe he'll even target Robbie Anderson once in a while. Who knows? And then my last quarterback, look, I know Justin Fields had maybe a historically bad day. All right. Sacked 9 times, completed 6 passes. That's hard to do. But better days will come. Obviously, his first start, maybe a little nervous, going against a really good Cleveland defense. I know Cleveland defense looked really bad the first 2 weeks. They did have to play Kansas City, okay? But Cleveland, they had their way with him. I think he'll be fine. He's going to get at least another start because Andy Dalton's still out. He is a talented passer who can also run, and he's going to go against Detroit. Now, there was a little bit of injury issue, so we might have to change the recommendation here if something lurks, but I don't think so. I think right now Fields is good to go. So if he does, don't be surprised if he puts up some fancy numbers against Detroit because that's how bad Detroit's defense is. But also, I think Fields will settle down. He's got a great receiver in Allen Robinson. You know, he's got a good running back behind him in Montgomery. I think he'll figure it out. So again, this is talking about 2 quarterback super flex leagues. I'm not saying to pick him up and add him and start him in a regular 1 quarterback league. If you're in one of those leagues, you probably shouldn't need to look for waiver wire pickup anyways. But in a deeper league, maybe consider Fields. Could have a nice game against the Lions. Just saying. All right, that does it for waiver wire pickups week 4. Guys, don't forget to check out all the information in the description I already mentioned. Big shout out to Bear Clothing, one of our proud sponsors. Check them out too. Give them a follow on Instagram if you can. Just look for Bear Clothing. You'll find it. And all of you, join the Discord. Join the conversation with us. Chris and I are always on there helping to answer your questions each and every day. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.